Good morning, everybody. It's about like 5:30 right now. Just finished exercising, and look, there's a swarm of bees all over the place. They're swarming the lights. So even outside here, I have this light on. The light out here is on right here. And the bees are swarming the light bulbs. So, I don't know. Sometimes they'll move and try to find a new place to build a hive, and you'll see a whole swarm of them just moving from one place to another. So later on in the day, I guess they'll start moving again. But yeah, it's still dark out. You can see, well, I can see the constellations up there because out here in the countryside, there's not much light pollution. But I can see a lot of the constellations up there. I like to just look at the stars when I wake up, because when I wake up in the morning, it's quiet. 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, just me all by myself. That's the only time I get to really think and process a lot of things, because I have a lot of things that I think about all the time. But like I said, every day there's some type of topic that I think about. It comes up, and I just have to talk about it because it matters, right? It matters, and especially when it's about Cambodia, it's personal to me. So yeah, I've spoken about this topic before a while back, and spoke about it because it makes me feel like, Cambodia is always blamed for something, Cambodia is always guilty of something, and the whole world always looks at Cambodia a certain way because of that. So it kind of makes me think about my childhood and the way that I grew up, right? Because I can say that growing up, we grew up in the projects, a poor part of the city. We were living in housing, government-assisted housing, and in those areas, there's a lot of minorities, So we grew up around a lot of minorities, blacks, Mexicans, other Asians, So we related to the blacks more than anything, because, like, to be honest with you, like black folks, we grew up together, and we can relate to each other. And I still have a lot of friends, like close friends, that are black, So I call them my brothers. And I remember growing up, when we were growing up in the 90s, right? In the 90s, at the time, Tupac was real famous, and he kept talking about a lot of the struggles of black people and black folks being a minority and being accused of things all the time. And even things that you weren't even guilty of, they would accuse you of. And I remember at the time, in the 90s, black folks used to get arrested all the time and get shot and killed for no reason, Like, black folks would be walking down the street just with their hands in their pockets, and the police would just pull them over and say, take your hand out, and he'll pull out like a comb or something, and the police would shoot him, And that's the thing about growing up, as a minority in America in the 90s, is that you're always guilty of something. You're always blamed for doing something, right? So the reason why I bring that up is because like what's happening to Cambodia now, right? With between Thailand and Cambodia. Cambodia is being blamed for a whole bunch of stuff right now, A whole bunch of stuff. Bring this in closer. Cambodia is being blamed for a whole bunch of stuff, and the rest of the world just echoes it, Like, yeah, Cambodia really is guilty of whatever people are saying. And for Thailand, nobody pays attention. Everybody thinks they're just super innocent, super perfect, they can't do anything wrong. So the reason why I make the comparison of, you know, black folks, African Americans, you know, and the way that Cambodia is being treated right now is it reminds me of how African Americans in America were treated back in the 90s, you know, and even to this day, you know, but it's just not really spoken of. Because I remember, when we were growing up in the housing project, right? Whenever there was some sort of a crime or a suspect, something bad happened, and if the suspect was a black person, the police would come right away. And the way that they treated the suspect was, man, just awful. I used to see them getting beat up by the police, you know. But if it was a different race, you know, they wouldn't be treated as badly, and the police wouldn't respond as quickly, right? But if it's an African American, the police would respond so fast. So that's the same thing that's happening to Cambodia right now. The police, I mean, not the police, but the international community would just look right away and say, and blame Cambodia. Yeah, that's Cambodia. You know, they're so bad. And it's not just the international community. Even some Khmer Americans have something bad to say about Cambodia, you know. A lot of Khmer Americans will say that I have no connection to that country anymore, you know, so I don't care about it. And they are really bad, or they are really criminals, and they are really scammers and stuff like that. I'm like, man, you say you have no connection to Cambodia, but on your profile you have a picture of Angkor Wat. So how does that make sense if you have no connection to Cambodia? It's like, it's convenient for you, right, to just claim that you're Cambodian but not care about it. And that's the problem, all right? So this is my rant for today because, like I said, this is my home. I have my kids here. I have my family. I have my business here. So it's personal to me. Cambodia is personal to me because I live here. It's my home, okay? And it affects me personally, like emotionally, whenever I hear people blaming Cambodia for certain things, right? And that's why I bring up the fact, or not the fact, but the feeling of being treated like a minority. That's how minorities were treated in America back in the 90s, right? You don't have the same opportunities as everybody else. You don't have the same treatment. Anytime something bad happens, they blame you, right? So this topic came up before when that real famous YouTuber, Travel with Chris, was here, like in the beginning of the year. I guess he was walking around, you know, with his wife, and you know, he got his fame mostly from being here in Cambodia and helping out, you know. So his TikTok, his YouTube all blew up. It just, you know, his followers grew massively because of Cambodia, you know. And then one simple thing, or one little thing happened, right? I guess she was walking around, she had her purse out, and while her purse was out, somebody snatched it. And as soon as somebody snatched her purse, he went live and said that, you know, somebody just snatched her purse in Cambodia. And that just it spread like wildfire on the internet, you know. Like it went all over the place, and everybody was like, see, Cambodia, that's Cambodia right there. And it's so fast for people to judge, right, to blame and say, you know, just focus on just the bad things about Cambodia. It's so easy, you know. And at that time, I was trying to build, you know, get together everything about my school, you know. And it reminded me of that girl, Bu Sam Nang. Bu Sam Nang, I made a video about this before. It's a Cambodian girl, you know. She participated in Southeast Sea Games at the time. And Sea Games, she was running. So while she was running, I guess all the runners, the rest of the runners, they finished way before her, you know. And for her, she was last, you know. She didn't give up. She kept running. Even though everybody else already finished, she kept on running. And while she was running, a monsoon came in. And when the monsoon came in, you know, like she could have gave up again because it was raining, you know, but she didn't. She just kept on running. She ran and ran and ran. It was like, and her finish time was like the worst of everybody else, you know. Like it took her the longest to finish, but she didn't quit. And everybody saw her, you know, running still. And they waited to watch her, and they cheered her on, like, just keep going, just keep running until you finish. And then when she finally did, she finished. It was downpouring, and she was crying, she was emotional, and everybody just cheered her on and just clapped, and gave it, told her, like, it's, you did a good job, Like, she had no reason to finish. She was already last, but she kept going. So that reminds me of Cambodia just being the underdog, just being unequal to everybody else, being lower than everybody else. And it's easy for people to blame Cambodia and just focus on the negative things, right? And for that, I remember it's like being an underdog, right? So being an underdog means that you're always last. You're always behind, right? And people always laugh at you, and they always look down on you, And it's not even just other people, it's even your own people will look down on you and say bad things about you. So for this border conflict, I feel like it's the same thing. Cambodians, they were screaming and yelling, look at what they're doing to us, look at what they're doing to us. But nobody notices, nobody hears it, nobody pays attention, right? Nobody cares. But as soon as something bad comes up about Cambodia, everybody is focused on Cambodia saying, yeah, they are bad, But while we were screaming for help, nobody cares. And it just makes me look at everything, like, to be honest with you, we don't have anybody to help us. We don't have anybody to rely on, In the end, all we have is ourselves. We don't have people who want to come out and, speak up for us. Like, to be honest with you, I was expecting a lot of those social media influencers, those people who got their fame from coming to Cambodia and walking around and saying, I love Cambodia, you got your fame because of that. And when Cambodia was, suffering and being invaded and being killed, I didn't see any of those people come out and say, I care and I love Cambodia, and point out things that the Thai side was doing. I did not see any of that, And this issue right here is real personal to me, because it makes me emotional to see all the things that Cambodian people are going through, Even to this day, right now, just yesterday, the Thai people, they came through with bulldozers again and tried to take more land, right? Even after this peace agreement, all this stuff, but Donald Trump, being witness to it, the Khmer soldiers are still in their custody, and nobody cares, So it affects me. It affects me because it looks a certain way on social media. Like, there's peace, there's stuff that's happening, there's good things, people can go back to doing what they're doing. But to be honest with you, we're left alone to deal with this issue, It's convenient for people to come here and say, oh, we care about Cambodia, we love Cambodia. But if you love something, it would hurt you to see that thing being harmed, right? Like, if your child was hurt, it would hurt you too, So, yeah. And when I did that video about the underdogs and talked about Bo Sam Nang, it was like my time that I started to get more closer to, like, the religion, of Buddhism, I can't really say that I'm Buddhist, but I'm just saying that I'm learning a lot of things about Buddhism. And one thing about Buddhism is the lotus flower, So the lotus flower is a symbol of rebirth, of awakening. Because if you look at the lotus flower, the way that it grows and the type of water that it grows from, it's just like dirty, stagnant water. It's like swamp water, basically, right? But out of that dirty, stagnant water comes the beautiful lotus flower. It's able to grow and be so beautiful. It blooms out of that dirty water. And that is what Cambodia is to me, right? Dirty, stagnant, smells bad, all the bad things, but we're able to bloom out of all that for some reason, okay? That's what Cambodia means to me, is that we're able to rebirth ourselves from a war-torn country that nobody cares about, people getting killed, genocide and all that. And you think about, like, that wasn't too long ago, that wasn't too long ago, where there was nothing left, there was nothing here, there was no food, there was nothing to eat, right? That was not too long ago, okay? Like I said, the people that live in this village, they're still scarred from all that, It wasn't too long ago when that happened. But for some reason, Cambodian people are still able to smile, They're still able to smile, they're still able to carry on. And the things that they deal with every single day, I don't see people complaining, I don't see them crying and saying, I can't do this or I can't do that. They just carry on and they'll smile at you, right? Like even with their crops, when the crops aren't good and they go into debt, they still smile and say, it's okay, we just have to carry on, That type of strength, it only comes from Cambodians, all right? Okay, so that's my rant for today, because I've seen a lot of bad things people say, even from Khmer Americans, So the Khmer Americans that say they have no connection to Cambodia and that it doesn't affect them, well, you should take off that profile picture with Angkor Wat, because if you don't have no connection to Cambodia, then don't use Angkor Wat as your profile picture, because you're not Cambodian. All right? Thank you. See you next time.